Leaping Thong, welcome to Real Insight. We've tried to organise this for a couple of weeks, and it's great to finally have you here. Thanks for taking the time out.
Thanks for having me, Mike. I'm really excited to be here.
Pleasure. Now, Associate Professor Leaping Thong, not just Leaping Thong. And I wanted to kick this off with sort of a bit of a breakdown of that world of academia. So as far as I understood academia when I was going to uni was that you get an undergrad qualification and then you go and get a job. And that was it. I had no idea that there was a world within academia.
Yep.
But there's a massive world within academia. How did you stumble into that world and what was it that kept you there?
That's a great question. So I think I have to start off with like the origin story. So I am from Malaysia, right?
Yep.
So I studied, I think it was the same thing as well. So I took a degree in Malaysia, studied film and animation, and then to get a job in animation. But unfortunately in Malaysia, like in animation studios, that time it was still too early yet. It's not a lot of jobs out there to work with that. So very quickly, I then started to shift and think about the things that I really want to do. One of the things that I was really pretty good at is actually teaching. I was really interested because my lecturers in Malaysia, they were there to guide me. And I thought like they were really great mentors. They were there to, and I was thinking in terms of that, I want to be like them one day. So then I took on a master's in education. The master's in education is more about e-learning technologies, where my interest of technology is fused together with kind of like how do you actually use technology to help facilitate with learning and teaching. And then I kind of like stumbled into the world, like into university, getting my job there as well after a couple of years working as an animator and like some design jobs in web design and all of that. So then from there, I became a lecturer in a Malaysian university. So that's Taylor's University back then. I was teaching students and I was learning the craft of teaching, really, how to actually be able to transfer my subject knowledge to students and also to be able to enable them to actually discover their learning and hone their craft a lot more. And I find that there's a lot of satisfaction. So I was a tutor back then before I started off. But then you see them actually succeed. You see them actually having that trajectory and become great designers, be really good at their craft. And then like that's when I actually discovered after about a year or 2 years in, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do.
Yeah.
So then from there, from Malaysia, then I actually took on a lecturer job once again in Vietnam.
Yeah.
I just packed up my bags and left. I thought it was a great opportunity. Let's do this. So
did you have a job lined up or was it just, I'm going to go and see?
I'm going to go and see. So actually that was quite a bit of an adventure. I applied for this job in RMIT Vietnam and it was a lecturer job. I haven't been to Vietnam before. Haven't been to Ho Chi Minh City before. So, but I was like, let's do this. I'll give it a year. Things don't work out. I can come back to Malaysia.
Yeah.
So I just packed my bags and I just accepted the job offer. I didn't even try it and scout out Vietnam and see how it goes. I just packed and left.
Yeah.
And then I left. And then that was, and then I gave it a year. And then if novelty wears off, I'll just go. If teaching doesn't work out, I'll just go and be a designer back in Malaysia. But then I was there for 8 years.
Yeah, wow.
And it was like the best decision ever.
Yeah.
And then the best time of my life because I get to work with amazing students. I get to really discover what academia is, like not just through the Malaysian lens, but now more of a Vietnamese, like a more international kind of lens as well. And then to work with other practitioners and educators from around the world because there's a lot of expats working in that university as well. And then I started learning more about what is research, what is actually impact, what is actually working with communities, no longer just teaching in the classroom.
Yeah.
And that's what academia is about because a lot of people imagine that academia is about getting a degree. It's a transaction, like so you're there to attain a degree and then to get a job. And part of it is that, but it's also a lot of it is also industry, getting industry coming in to help feed and lead into and guide students is part of that education as well. So there's a line. It's also about planning what the future is like, therefore what the syllabus is going to look like to prepare them for the unknown down the line. It's also research. It's also research like what's next, the blue sky thinking and all of that. And then from Vietnam, then 8 years later, there was another opportunity. Hey, there's an opportunity to work with RMIT in Melbourne. And off I went. So let's do this. So let's see how it goes. Took the job offer and then last month actually was the 10th year since I've made the move.
Yeah, wow.
So 18 years in total from RMIT Vietnam to Melbourne. So that's a very significant time.
Yeah.
Plus Malaysia, being in teaching and learning and then in academia.
So let's do this is probably one of your core life philosophies by the looks of it. Just like
you're
no
right.
fear.
Now that I think about it, you're right.
Yeah.
Like, let's do this.
That's good because that's something that I've always lacked in my life. I've always been the guy to overanalyze and to weigh things up too long and to not make the decision, which I'm working on. But, like we were talking about off air before, sometimes you just got to do it, right? Because if you don't do it,
there's no right timing. There's always opportunities coming along, and then but you just have to make sure that you are ready when something good comes along.
Yeah.
And then you don't actually hold back. Like, even if you're not fully prepared, just go for it. And that's what I always tell my students as well. Ooh, I might not be suitable for this job, or do I have to? I might not be able to finish this course this semester. That's all this. But you just have to trust yourself. Even if it doesn't work out, it will still be a good learning experience anyway.
Yeah.
Right. So, but if you don't try at all, then you miss out completely.
Yeah.
That's my life philosophy, I guess.
Yeah.
In a way. Yeah.
It's a good philosophy.
I think so.
In terms of associate professor, doctor, what's the ranking system? Like, how do you work through those?
Oh, it's very different in different countries and regions, I guess. But let's talk about Australia. Australia is quite interesting. So you start off so it's like a ladder that you slowly climb. So, and I climb from the bottom rung. So like starting from in Australia, so you start off from associate lecturer.
Yep.
And then you become a lecturer, and then you become a senior lecturer, and then associate professor, and then professor. And then there's the upper echelons where you have like the distinguished professors and all that's way above.
Yeah.
So you start off from there. So in 10 years, I started off as an associate lecturer, got my PhD, then you become lecturer, and then you progress over the years.
So PhD is like the important step, right? That then gets you into being able to lecture. Is that critical?
Yes and no. Maybe it depends on institutions as well. But I do think that PhD is unfortunately like the currency of the academia as well, where you kind of need it to be able to progress up.
Mm-hmm.
So for us anyway, like to be a lecturer, you need like the prerequisite kind of like it's you need most of the time you need a PhD to progress into lecturer. Otherwise, you would hit this ceiling to be associate lecturer. So it actually does come into play because the journey of actually completing a PhD is it's one of the biggest challenge that most academics would say it's a really difficult thing to achieve. And that would allow you to be able to critically think, to dissect, to be able to the fact that you do the PhD would kind of qualify you to be able to guide the students as well in a way, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's a very difficult challenge, but.
What was your PhD?
It was a PhD about it's serious games. So I did that with with Coventry University.
Yeah.
I did a split side while I was in RMIT Vietnam because I kind of have to keep the job there while paying for the tuition fees. So I was looking into the use of role-playing games, for learning and teaching. So basically developing a role-playing game called Virtual Designer, where students play a 3D character and then they are confronted with different scenarios of actually dealing with clients on like pitching a brief and then doing like pre-flight printing and all of that, and then dealing with the consequences around that. So it was very early work. So that was quite a few years ago. And then it was like PC-based. But I wish like, if I were to do it now, I would probably do it as a virtual reality kind of experience. But back then,
and I think really because the topic that stands out to me as exciting is this gamification approach of just about everything these days.
Yeah.
Like gamification for things in marketing, where like the supermarkets will give you toys so that the kids want to go back and collect toys. Like it's like everyone wants to attach something to the gamification of things. And some guests that I had on last season from University of Melbourne who do a lot of gamification, but with the neurodiverse.
Oh, interesting.
So using the gaming platform and the gaming community to enroll and engage neurodiverse individuals who might struggle socially to connect with others. And they've built this whole community of young, vibrant, neurodiverse individuals now that are firing on all cylinders because they've got something that they're good at.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key. Like you were saying before with education, it's your job as a lecturer to also then find what your students are going to be lit up by and steer them in that direction.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's about keeping them engaged and then bringing them across the line. because like the first couple of weeks they usually get pretty hyped up, and then when things get a bit more challenging, because there's always a learning curve. If there's no learning curve, then what's the point? Then it's
Yeah.
too easy, right? And it's about sustaining that interest and then keeping them going. And yeah, I believe in actually keeping them engaged. So games would be one of the core part. And I'm a gamer myself, so I play
Yeah.
games.
Me too.
So yeah, so that's why I wanted to view. So it from the masters of actually e-learning technologies, and that word is kind of obsolete by now. So then I move on to like games. Serious and games feels like it's a complete clash of things, but it actually totally makes sense, right?
Yeah.
It's about rewarding. It's about the gamified kind of experience. And it's also about a very safe space for people to fail as well. And then also the investment role-playing game. I like the role-play bit of role-playing games because you are very invested in the character. Whether or not the character fails or success, you kind of want them. So with any commercial games as well, that's the vibe, right? So that's what you try to achieve.
Particularly with RPGs, like I'm the same as you. I'm an
Yeah.
RPG guy, and you just talking about it gives me goosebumps because it triggers the memories of like the most fondest games that I played even in my teen years.
What are your fondest games?
Oh, The Dig. I played a game called The Dig, which was a George Lucas LucasArts game.
Yeah.
That fell short of getting funded for a movie, so they made a game out of it. It's 1992 or 93.
Yeah.
Amazing game. Just like one of those games that I just can't get out of my head 30 years later.
Yeah.
Willy Beamish was a game that I played as a kid.
Yeah.
What other RPGs? Most of the RPGs probably from the newer age are the ones that really get me, like Horizon on PS.
That's a nice one.
Red Dead Redemption, those sorts of
That
games.
is my favorite. Like in fact, like I actually mentioned Red Dead Redemption in my thesis. Like that's the one that I really love, like of all the games. Yeah, and also like it's scenic. It's so beautiful. I can just ride on in an open world as well. So it's the
This is the
story, it's the
thing.
narrative, and then it's like I love the ones where there's different narratives, like different kind of outcomes possible.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that are fantastic.
And I love that concept, particularly when you talk about design and game design. Game design used to be about the mechanics of the game.
Yep.
Like design a game that's challenging enough, or like if you go back to Atari and things, you weren't focused on the graphics. Where now part of game design, particularly in the RPG space, is designing the world. And the worlds can be so all-encompassing that, like you say, in Red Dead Redemption or in Horizon, sometimes I'm just walking around.
Yeah.
I'm just walking around and finding a nice cliff top to get like a really cool photo on.
Yeah.
Like that's half of the game is just the exploration of what's going on.
Yeah, I was reading an article or something. I think it was on LinkedIn, but there was a group of it's just a group of players. It's like they're all on Red Dead Redemption, but it's just a horse riding group.
Right.
So it's like this group of, and then in this online world, so everyone just get together and they just like chill and then they just ride and then like.
Did you ever
campfire
play
and all that.
Second Life?
I tried, but
Yeah.
it wasn't my thing.
Yeah, me
It wasn't
either.
my thing. It's still a thing these days though.
Yeah.
Like and it was like back then it was the rage when I was doing my PhD as well. It was the rage, and then you fly around. In fact, I think like our university actually bought an island, like secondhand.
Ah, yeah.
I don't know where the island went, but like I don't think I think it's still it's making a comeback somewhat. I think I'm not sure, but you don't hear much about that.
What about WoW? Did you play World of Warcraft?
No, I played the old Warcraft, like the Warcraft.
The top-down tile game. Yes, that was amazing.
I love it. I love the orcs. So,
yeah. That and back to those games too. In that world came the Dune games, Dune and Dune 2000, which were the same top-down strategy games. And then out of that was born Command and Conquer. And that was a whole series of those. They were so good.
Then you venture into the strategy games, which is also my next favorite genre. I love I was thinking about recently Sim Farm of all things. Sim Cities, like I love Sim Cities, but Sim Farm was one of the obscure ones that I really enjoy playing. Yeah.
Did you ever play Eve?
Eve? No.
Eve is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that a strategy game?
That's a big online strategy game. That's arguably one of the biggest MMOs in the world. It's been going for about 20 years. And like this is a whole political universe where there's factions and, people are doing deals outside of the game and then like betraying people in the game and turning over factions. And like you read articles about it and stuff. It's a full thing.
Yeah, it sounds like a good time.
Yeah, next level. But particularly like that's a good transition into, your passion for AR and VR and this immersive technology, particularly now where we get to that point of how much more immersive can games get when we're looking at a 2D screen and having sound fired at us from a distance? So where do you see this emergence of AR and VR, and where are you seeing like practical application versus, we're still in that sort of finding our way?
I think like it's also I think people are more difficult to impress these days. So like there's VR games. Like I know I actually do like the design bit of VR. So that's just a bit of context. So there's I do some research around design and development of virtual reality, as well as I'm interested in looking at the user experience design within a VR environment. So we're talking about not just screen-based UX, but rather spatial UX. But I personally tried, say, virtual reality games myself, but I didn't actually enjoy it myself. I played Fallout
Oh,
VR.
yeah.
Yeah, it couldn't even last like for a couple of more than 30 minutes.
And why is
I get
that?
really
What
sick.
is it? Is it the motion?
Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
the motion, and I get really sick because it's first-person view, and then you're kind of feeling like you're floating around and all of that. So you do need a bit of a strong stomach to actually withstand that. It depends on how you design it as well. So we talk about VR comfort and discomfort as well, and how you design it really matters in terms of how people actually experience the final output itself. As far as like the future of where this would lead, I don't know. I think like it might my feeling is that it would be more into the AR kind of realm. That's where it used to be like an even kind of race. This is my opinion anyway. Like my colleagues might disagree. And then like VR was kind of aging out, and then I think now AR is kind of maybe moving forwards. I see the merit in that because then you're kind of overlaying the digital with the physical world. And I think that's the interesting bit. How can you actually add gamification or the layer of gameplay into the real world and then making it a very social kind of experience? And of course, like then we think about place like the craze of Pokemon Go back then.
Oh, yeah.
Like
People walking into traffic.
ridiculous,
Yeah.
yeah. So like, and people are just tethered to their phones all, and then it's been quiet for a bit now. I wonder when is the next Pokemon Go is
Yeah.
going to happen, especially with all the technologies and devices and the race that's happening right now with AR glasses and all of that.
Yeah.
So that would be interesting, but also not just in the games realm, but like in the real world application as well.
We see it in our industry, because like sort of a lot of what you do, what you're into is very parallel to sort of where we exist as a business. It's user experience design, but
Yeah.
around sort of, classrooms and meeting spaces and things. But we've always struggled with trying to understand where are we going to put this augmented or virtual experience, because for us, it's different. Our world is about shared collective experiences in a space. Like that's how I describe what we do. We have to have a space to deliver a solution. When the space is the person, it sort of takes us out of the mix. So I think like you, there's two approaches to what we're doing with VR and AR. AR is the one that's probably going to be the most practical because it's the one that can serve us day to day. I can put some glasses on, I can have my traffic directions on, I can be getting information on things as I'm walking around the street. And I think VR still has a place, but it's the escapism. Like the VR is getting away from the world. It's not about bringing the digital into our world. It's about going to a digital place.
Yeah, it is. And then also like the physical world is really so distracting, right? And then with AR, like at least you're still part of it. You are still engaged with the world. Like VR, it is isolating sometimes. But that being said, right, it depends on how we design meaningful VR experiences to connect and not to isolate.
Yeah.
I think that's key. And it actually is moving towards that, where you can have, say, for example, in a virtual reality environment where you and I could be on separate ends of the world. Each of us don a pair of VR headsets, and then we are in the same room playing chess, for example.
Yeah.
So I can see where that could actually bridge like the disconnect, and that's where VR is a lot more powerful.
Yeah.
But a lot of the VR experiences. So I was in a conference last year. It was a bit odd. Like everyone's just wearing and then they're doing fishing, they're hiking alone in the bedroom kind of setup.
Yeah.
I don't know. It was a bit weird.
That's a bit weird. That's the stuff that I find to be a bit strange.
It's a bit uncomfortable actually.
Yeah.
I know. Like I design all of that I would teach students how to design this kind of experiences, but then it's starting to venture into like, oh, everyone's in their own room doing their own thing.
Yeah.
Isolated.
Yeah.
A bit dystopian. Yeah.
If we can come back to the user experience stuff for a second, because that's the stuff that always excites me. As a person that is designing user experiences and user experiences that are sort of that gap between the human and the technology, what do you consider to be some of the most important things to consider when you're designing an experience like that? Like, where do you start?
There's a few things. First of all, you're designing an experience for personas, right? So usually as designers, and in the classroom I teach students that as well, we work with the users. We talk to them at the early stage before you even start putting pencil on paper, right? Uh, what are the challenges? What are the barriers? What are the frustrations and all of that? And it's not imagined. It's real. It should be real people, not imagined personas.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, because that then takes out the assumptions that we have, because depends on your age group, gender, where you're from, and all of that. People would experience it differently, whatever that you're creating, whatever platform, whatever. If it's an app, a website, it's different, right? And then it's also about being responsible as well in how you actually design the experience, because in a way you are actually, the way that you design experience and the patterns that you use and the way that you design the final output, you are actually shifting user behaviors. How they interact, right? You're actually driving them to do certain things. And then there's this ethical question as well. Because what do you want out of this? Are you creating more disengagement? Are you giving distractions? Are you directing them to a certain content that you want them to read, whether or not it's a true or false content? So there's all these questions and that we need to unpack. It's not just about creating the product and then the experience of them engaging with the digital product itself, but what are the implications around that as well?
Yeah.
And then there's also questions of accessibility, font size, and all of that. How are they actually using and interacting? Are they on a train while they're using that? What context are they using in? So there's all of this big layer of how to actually design it and tailor it for your users in their situation on their device.
So cool. Probably this is really good because we can get you to help us with something that we're about to do at RMIT.
Cool.
The Experience Hubs, the Experience Hub project, and this is really cool because that Experience Hub project is one of those examples where myself, like you, you can't design anything without speaking to the end users. And one of the things that's always tricky in tertiary is there are so many layers between an institution like us, someone whose job it is to deliver for universities, and the academic. Maybe there's some consultants in the mix, or maybe there's an education portfolio in the mix. And for us, it was, no, if we're going to do this project, we have got to speak to your academics. And so we did a lot of really cool workshops with them. But as a result of the Experience Hubs, there's two stages. One is the physical deployment, which you've seen and used. But the next is the new UI. So we're going to be deploying a new UI across those rooms to really enhance that user experience. And I'm sure it's something that you can help with because as we are at the final stages of testing now, no one better than an academic who lives out there.
You want it to be seamless, and especially at the start of the class, the last thing you want to do is the academic being frustrated, pushing buttons and angry before the class actually starts. So you want it to be as seamless as possible. Let's get started, one button, and then you're ready, you're good to go.
Yeah.
And then you do need to consult people that are actually teaching on the ground, as well as the students as well that are experiencing the classroom experience. And then to make sure that it's all seamless and as frictionless as possible, then everyone's going to have a good time in class.
Yeah, because you find that with universities in particular, the administrative element of universities love technology, particularly if it's a technology university, because this is what we do. An academic 9 times out of 10 just wants the technology out of the way. It's an important part of what you do, but I need it as a mechanism. I don't need it as this big thing that I've got to try and conquer. So good technology design, particularly in an academic environment, is invisible.
Exactly.
It's frictionless.
Exactly. It's frictionless and it's intuitive. So you wouldn't even know that it's there in the first place, rather than everything just otherwise you're just dumping a lot of money and investing in all this infrastructure that will never be used.
Yeah.
Right?
It becomes a hindrance because it's too hard for me. All I want to do is put an image from my computer on that screen and I've got to press 7 buttons and connect this. And
then different lecturers would have different varying degrees of experience and comfort on actually engaging with technology. You don't want a technology or any design experience to get in the middle of things in the way that's just frustrating for everyone involved.
Yeah, correct. And again, another challenge that you always have with universities is because there is such a diverse range of academics. You'll have your first and second year graduates that are doing tutoring.
Yeah.
And then you've got your veterans that have been, in the scene for 30, 40 years. If I change all the technology on a touch panel for that academic, they're going to be like, nah, I just want my cable and I need to connect my laptop and that's it.
Yeah.
So it's tricky. It's tricky trying to push the envelope there too without sort of,
But we are in interesting times though, because back then we didn't have all this technology. imagine like all the wealth of all the suite of stuff that, so for one that is like that is ready for an adventure, a lecturer that's interested in actually pushing boundaries on like
Yeah.
what could learning and teaching actually look like. What does the classroom of the future actually look like?
Yeah.
Right? What does it look like beyond the classroom? We do not have to be confined in like a physical constraint. Geographically, we can actually pull everyone together.
Yeah.
And it's more than just teams. I know like everyone's streaming and stuff like that, but can we do more
Yeah.
than that? I think that's the interesting piece.
And that's where you unlock this thing of, well, now we can come together in a virtual space. So
Yeah.
it feels more like we're in an environment.
Yeah, so we were looking at as we were doing that one last year where we were talking about classroom of the future and what we could look like, and then we were doing it across RMIT Vietnam and RMIT Melbourne, where we put on the Oculus Quest. We have students and lecturer doing their thing there, and then we are doing here, but it's all synchronous. We're all in the same virtual space. So this comes back to the point that we had earlier about VR experience or MR, like to connect rather than isolate. So in a classroom kind of context, yeah. So we were teaching at the same time in a studio on how to set up studio lights and all of that, but on 2 campuses in real time.
Yeah.
And that was actually quite seamless. The demo that we did. And that's one way of actually looking at about pushing boundaries. Like it doesn't have to be in the classroom, and we have all this arsenal of technologies that's here right now for you as an educator and for you as a student. Like how much can we push this? Like how can we reimagine and rethink teaching and learning and pedagogy and how we deliver our teaching to keep students engaged?
How do you not get lost in it? How do you not get lost in so much technology? Like we have so much technology around now like, does it get difficult to sort of commit to this is going to be, the best for the next amount of time, and this is the stuff that I think is important for the students now, but 18 months, that could be different.
Yeah.
Everything's just so fast.
It's a constant thing for digital design. So in our field, especially in digital media, and it goes beyond just the technology. It's also the software as well as the tools and the methods on how we do things. Digital design moves really quickly, like far quicker. Like your devices or your techniques will be obsolete in 6 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it's also about planning the teaching as well on like where is this going to lead to? Because we are planning the future and also planning the future of the future. We can't anticipate it. You can't anticipate it. But the way I see it is actually, and the way I actually tell students as well, is you can't commit to technologies because they go out of fashion very quick, of fashion, right? But what you can do, however, is to actually look at the design problem, and then have a look at what are the current arsenal of technologies. Once again, what are all the things that is available out there? And then which one would have the right affordance which one could actually solve that problem for your user. And then you pick that and then you do that. So in the university, the way that we teach digital design is that we encourage our students to be agnostic in terms of the technologies that they use, the platform and the software. We're not teaching you a specific software. Use whatever you want that you're comfortable with. The new one or an old device, use it, right? As long as it works, it fits with the needs of your users and it does what you need to achieve at that point in time. But what's core is the underpinning principles of the design. It's the foundation, it's the theory, it's the concepts and the knowledge around that. And then what tools you pick, really, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter what tools you pick because like it's about the underpinning principles and foundation.
Yeah. I started my career in music.
Nice one.
The first 10 years, 10, 12, 15 years, like just playing music, professional musician. I got a music degree and a computer science degree.
Oh.
And, that was one of those philosophies that for me was probably not pushed on me hard enough in my early music days, which is just make music. Doesn't matter what guitar it is. It doesn't matter how well you know how to play. It doesn't matter like who likes what. Just play, right? Just make music and then you'll learn yourself through failed iteration.
Yeah.
I'm always thinking I've got to wait until I've got everything in a row and it's all ready to go and it's planned and it's tested. And then when I make it once and it's perfect. That's always been the way that my brain had worked.
Yeah, and I love that you mentioned like failed iteration because it's about the failed iterations are the ones that are really interesting. Because like design is a problem solving exercise. Essentially, it's not aesthetics. It's about solving problems. And then it's iterative. And you will be expected to fail.
Yeah.
And then you tinker again, come back stronger. Like we will rebuild and then we will keep trying and keep going. So whatever the tools that you're using, and really this goes across not just digital design, but really even music and any other fields as well, they will always advance. But I think like the fundamental principles and then the willingness to go for it and then just get started. Rather than waiting for the perfect moment because there's never a perfect moment.
Time gets lost. Yeah.
Time gets lost.
Let's talk about AI for a moment and LLMs and things of that nature. Particularly, we're talking about, in the creative space. And I think if you go back 20 years and we talked about the emergence of AI, it was always going to be this philosophy where AI will come along, it'll take over all the manual tasks, all the boring stuff that we do, and we'll be able to spend more time being creative and exploratory and making art and all those sorts of things. It feels like the AI is doing that. The AI has gotten really good at creating art and, doing all the creative things for us. And what is that going to do to us? So what is the shift? And I suppose I'll ask this two ways. A, how is AI impacting and affecting design and what's practical now? But then at the flip side, what are the risks, within the space of digital design, relying too much on, getting an LLM or an AI to do the process and I'm just prompting? Do we lose parts of the human input in design at that risk?
We do. Wait, hang on. So can you repeat the first question
Yeah,
again?
the
Let's
first
just go-
question
yeah.
more along the lines of, how are you currently seeing good use of AI in digital design?
Okay, great question. And it's a very frequently asked question. It's not just like, yeah. The whole conversation about AI is getting a bit saturated, to be honest. Like everyone is talking about it right now. Everyone's latched onto it, and everyone's an AI expert these days. But with AI, it's going to be it is definitely, it's not creative. I would say that. I'll give you that. What it does is it actually generates outputs for you, but ultimately you need to be able, like, it's the users that drives the creativity. Because what it actually spits out is going to create something that is generic, that's been done a million times. That's the opposite of creativity. It's convenient, and then it actually helps us with actually being more efficient.
Yeah.
I'll give you that. But the thing about AI, especially in digital design, is that, and even any areas when students try to input it, to be able to do proper prompt engineering, you need to be able to have very good, like, again, it comes back to the fundamental principles of things. You need to have a design vocabulary. You need to have the knowledge to be able to ascertain what's a good design and what's not good design. You have to be able to accept or reject, like, whatever the AI actually spits out back to you. Is this good or is it bad design? So they can't actually, like, for students anyway, they are trying to just like, oh, I'll just whip something up with AI that quick. And I mean like a creative work.
Yeah.
They're not able to do it if they don't have that understanding in the first place. They can't prompt. So you need to be able to prompt and understand and then dissect that, rather than accept, like, the works that AI actually creates for you.
Yeah.
So I think that's a bit problematic, and I think, like, a lot of students are depending on that, and that's the gap. I think that's the gap where the educators would have to step in.
And is it difficult for you guys at the moment? So for academics, like being submitted work to correct, what are you getting? Flurries of work from AI now?
So creative works, what we are trying to start moving towards now is not to reject AI, but to embrace AI as part of our methods in actually creating design. But to do that intentionally and, like, with meaning and impact as well, not just spitting out words and just to, like, just submit an assignment.
Just to get through the course.
Just get through the course, right? But when they actually do that, we would want the students to actually justify, like, did you actually use AI? How do you use it? How does that actually how is that part of the methods that you use? And we are actually teaching students of actually using, how would you actually responsibly use AI as part of your practice and methods to do the work. But whilst also still inputting your creative knowledge into it as well. You're not letting AI drive your creativity. It's the other way around, but you're using it to be efficient. If you're a coder, for example, you still need understanding of the code. You can't just have AI spit out, because, like, whatever they spit out, you don't understand it.
Yeah.
You don't even. And then if you need to actually modify it to suit whatever that you need, you can use it as a start, and then you can shift and move it, but you can't do it just on AI alone. And I think that's key. And I think, like, for educators, that's the gap.
Yeah.
I don't think AI is going to ever replace us, because if AI can replace your teaching, then are you even teaching in the first place?
Yeah, that's right. You're probably not doing much.
You're not doing much, like, because we are not there to teach you how to use the software or how to code and stuff like that. It's the critical thinking, it's the ethics around it, and then how you actually adapt your methods as technology shifts and moves. Like, it's always constantly shifting and it's always advancing. How as you as a designer shift and adapt your creative methods to create what you need to create as well, and not be entirely dependent on it.
Yeah.
Where it drives your whole work.
And none of this is new, right? Like, I mean, we
It
see
ain't
it all the
new.
time. You go back, when CAD first came out and we thought, well, that's going to be the end of all the architects because now the computers are going to design all the homes. Well, guess what?
Yeah, guess what? Like, who's designing that? Yeah, so you still need people to actually do the proper design.
Yeah,
And I was thinking, like, what was I doing? I was learning like lingo scripting back then. I
Oh,
could be
yeah.
a director back then, and like, there's no more lingo scripting. Like, so it shifts and moves, but again, the principles is always there. Like,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
whatever new technology comes out, you just have to be ready to adapt. And this is one thing that we always say a lot in design. Like, we're teaching students to learn how to learn, because you're gonna constantly learn. There's always gonna be something new. And then if you're not adapting, in this case, right now, the phase is AI. We are very well into AI. If you're not adapting, you're gonna be left behind
Yeah.
pretty quick, if not already.
Yeah. You've had a lot of experience with design in different cultural settings as well.
Mm.
Is there a cultural element to design? Is there a cultural inheritance to design? Have you seen design, different when you get design work, let's say from Vietnamese students versus students in Australia? Can you see sort of the culture in some of the work?
There's a lot of difference in terms of aesthetics, for instance.
Yeah.
Like so that's definitely a cultural difference, and in terms of how they actually engage and actually talk about their work as well. Yeah, so can't really say much about that. I think yeah, I think there is a cultural difference. Mm, yeah,
Okay.
not
Yeah,
really.
it's more just like, because I always think, you look historically at particular cultures and the things that have emerged from particular cultures. So, I guess the design element where historically cultures were a lot more segmented,
Yeah.
you can look at things and go, oh, that's very German, that's very Italian. Where
Yeah.
these days, it's like so much multiculturalism that is things that stem out of a design mentality. Do they still have that cultural background, or is it like, are we becoming
I don't know.
so unified that design is just design now?
That's really an interesting. Yeah, I haven't actually thought that deep into it. When I first started out in Vietnam many years ago, like it is very, very Vietnamese. Like a
Mm,
lot of it is they're influenced by what the design that they see in
yeah.
Vietnam. I think, and then they're influenced by that. So that's why I was mentioning earlier, like the aesthetics of things. Uh, yeah, it's very different across cultures. And then, like, when I come to Melbourne, I was, like, immediately hit because I was from Southeast Asia, like, the style and taste is very different as well, and how they actually approach design. The visual language is very different.
Yeah.
But then I think now you start to see the boundaries kind of blur between, like, the culture. Vietnamese work, Melbourne works, Australian works, and all of that. It starts to fuse together.
Yeah.
There's no distinctiveness. I think it's also because everyone have more access across, like, what kind of style, what kind of works there is, like across different range globally
Yeah,
as well.
exactly. Yeah. And that's like, I mean, if you go back in history, you can look at a particular style of pyramid and go, that's Egyptian, that's Aztec. And just because of the characteristic. Where now we're in this world where, yeah, I can see what's going on in America. I can see what's going on in European countries. So we're all influenced by the same sort of things now.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting for me to see how, that sort of becomes a bit flatter over time, where then everyone is producing these unique sort of designs and approaches to designs because we're all sort of exposed to the same stuff.
Yeah, but then also like on the flip side, it's starting to be not unique anymore because you
Yeah.
lose that, and then because of again Gen AI, then everything is the same. It's
Yeah.
just spitting out the same thing because everyone's done the same thing.
Rehashing
So like
different ideas.
rehashing is right. So there is now a lack of imagination and originality, which is a bit concerning for design.
Mm.
The images that they spit out, once again, even if you have good prompts, it's always the same recurring kind of patterns and design and ideas.
Yeah.
So whereas the originality and the creativity is being taken away from us.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think about that sometimes, and like I get a bit worried on where we're headed because the last thing that we want is like identical ideas.
Yeah, we're all walking around in grey suits and just saying the same thing, and
Yeah,
no
we already
one's.
are in a
Yeah,
way.
well,
Yes.
yeah, the Matrix.
Uh,
There's another really unique contrast to your life, which again is something that I sort of see echoed in mine. And on one hand, your academic career has you immersed in technology, and technology is the thing that you have to live in and breathe. But then there's this other part of your life that is a complete removal of yourself from technology, and that is your farming
yeah.
adventures outside of academia. Tell us about farm life.
Yeah, farm life. So for context, I have a farm out of Melbourne, so it's about 2 hours drive away. and got this place about, I think, 5 years ago, just when like COVID was about to hit, like the first round. So I made the decision to actually I decided 5 years ago for some reason that you know what, there's more to life than just work. I'm gonna need a space, like a safe space, a big space
Yeah.
that is entirely opposite from my 1-bedroom apartment. I want a separate space. So I'm gonna do it. So let's just do it.
Let's
right?
do it.
Let's just
Yeah.
do it. Let's go for it. So it's the most ridiculous thing. So I then bought like a farm, and then that's where it's at. And then I think about this all the time. Like it doesn't make sense, and everyone would be always quite appalled, really. Like you have a farm? Like what's going on there? Like what's going on?
It's a
Because
contrast.
it's this extreme contrast of digital design and then like a farm. Like that what is that? So it's the tension and the contrast of like the digital, a very digital and a very physical, a very hectic and busy kind of life. Like let's go, let's do this. Advanced technologies, the future of the future. Let's talk about, let's do this. And then there is the slow moments.
Mm.
It's not about escape, but it's more about slowing down. It's more about being intentional and then taking a pause, because like the farm is a great place for me to be able to not isolate, but really for me to actually hear my thoughts.
Yeah.
That's why I got the farm. I think like I was thinking a lot about this recently, like because I was in a hammock and I was like, just think about stuff. Why do I have to farm? I have all these random thoughts and questions, and I think a lot. In the city, in my work in digital design, I can't hear myself think because I'm
Mm.
constantly on. You have to take care of everyone as well, students and all of that. You're so busy, the week just goes past. But when I'm at the farm, just me and my dog, and then I think about stuff. I think about design. I think about life. I think about the absurdities of everything that's happening around the world. So I love that tension. Not tension, I guess. Like it's two opposite, and I like having that balance
Mm.
of both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were talking off air. I'm similar in the sense of I'm renovating a house at
Yeah.
the moment, and it's that thing of during the week, because you're about the future, because your job is about technology and always assessing like what's coming. I find myself living in the future. Like I'm always living
Yeah.
somewhere else
Yeah.
because I'm like I have to anticipate and predict and understand. And then sometimes I just want to pick up a paintbrush and just go, I am existing, painting a house.
Yeah.
Like that's it. Here I am. This is all I'm worried about and all I'm doing is
Yeah,
that.
but whilst you're doing that, you're actually being more productive in a way, because you come back stronger.
Yeah.
You come back stronger, and then you think about. So when I was at the farm as well, I still think about design. I still think about. So it's a good space to actually breathe and do a proper think. I think the thinking part is really important for me.
Mm.
Otherwise, you're just going through the motions week after week.
That's what I was going to ask. Like, does the design ethos creep into the farm in the sense of like, okay, I could do that better and I could change that so that that's going to be more practical? And do you have to sometimes be like, no, it's not always about design. Like, how do you ride that fence?
Yeah, because like some of my colleagues actually asked like, "Oh, do you do like sensors, and do you do like
Yeah.
bring all this technology and all of that around?" I try not to. I try to separate it, but sometimes it does creep in. So I actually built an automatic chicken door, using a linear actuator, like with a Wi-Fi controller with solar,
Yeah.
so that from home, from the city, I can actually use Alexa to actually voice activate and say like "Open Sesame," and it opens and closes the door. So and then I have like a whole self-watering garden and all of that to just like water and all. So it does creep in sometimes, but I like to actually do a lot more of the hands-on. It's still design. I like to actually spend time building. So I build like this giant chicken house to house my chickens, and then another house. Never lifted a hammer before in my entire life, but I built a thing.
Yeah.
So that's that satisfaction of actually having something tangible, which is opposite from digital.
Yeah.
So it's something intangible. You're lifting all this wood and you're like hammering and all of that. I really enjoy that. And then it's also physical as well. It's good to be away from the screens and
exactly
then
it.
disconnect.
Yeah, being able to look back at something that you've done in the physical world is very different because, again, for people like us, it's very much about a design that lives on paper or is theoretical.
I know, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and then when you can do something and stand back and go, I put time into it, I put my thoughts into it, and like there it stands. It's right there in front of me.
Yeah, it's
very
It's
different.
wonky, but it's
That's another thing that I struggle with because I am a perfectionist. Renovating as a perfectionist,
yeah.
you've got to learn to deal with
Exactly.
compromise.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just wanted to wrap up with walking through one of your most impactful pieces of research or research project work that you've done on. And this is where you've been engaged with a community or a community group, but something where you look back on fondly and go, I think that was some of the best work that I did.
There's one that I can talk to, which is quite recent as well.
Mm.
It's a website. It's just a website, right? So because like, well, what's just a website? So it's a website called the Golden Plains Stories, and we're about to launch that in a couple of months, I think.
Yeah.
So basically, this is something that I started during COVID actually. So it's a community website. So Golden Plains is where the farmers are. So
Yeah.
when I was there, when I bought into the place, I feel like there's this whole rich area. It's about the gold rush. It's about all this. There's so much of historical stories and local stories around that area. And then there's all the small history groups around the region as well. They're all doing their own thing. They're trying to conserve and preserve like all the stories around their township. And it's all scattered across. But there is no cohesive kind of digital infrastructure to hold all the separate stories. It's all scattered and all of that. So I wanted to create like a website. It's really simple. It's just a website, and then it actually includes all the townships of the entire region, and that has just been recently completed and handed over. So it's a website and it's a structure where now all the separate historical groups could actually contribute and add and to this organic kind of website. Stories and histories and keep capturing, and it will live and grow for the next, hopefully, many years to come. So they have now created like instead of separate history groups through council, like they're creating this historical network group. They're all coming together, and they're all going to come together and then work on this piece, and then add images, historical photographs of what this is and where this is from, and then we're going to start building and create this gigantic website, and then also involve community to add their stories as well. Hopefully bring in their artifacts and their stories, objects as well, and things and stories about place, story about their school years and all that. And yeah, so that's one of the things that I think like is small, but I think it's significant. It's one of those projects that will live long enough to have a bit of an impact.
It's like ancestry for the gold rush area.
Yeah.
Like everyone gets together and starts sewing together a family tree.
Yeah. And then like and it's also about like the local stories as well, like things that were gone, that was past, and then like the younger generations that have been living here in that region. I wasn't from there. That like what's the story behind this town? What's the story behind this building, this church, this monument? Who's the architect behind of this? So there's so much of rich stories to unpack around this. And then like and then the beauty of it is that the content currently it's not fleshed out yet. The content will be driven by community, and I think that's really important. And it's something that it would sustain itself for many years to come. So it's a website, and it's something so simple. Yeah, anyone could whip up a website, but it's also about. I think that one's really meaningful for me because it brings community together.
Yeah.
And that's something that is really hard to achieve. You can build an app, and then like in 3 years, and then it's done. Like and then that's the end. Or it's for an event. You can run an event, and that's it. This is one that will live. It's one of the few things that I'm pretty proud of.
And I think that like that's probably the point where you said it'll live on. And that's probably the thing I think for me that pulled me into design is what can I do in the world that'll outlive me? I don't have kids. I've not sort of had a family or anything like that. So it's like, okay, well, my job is to leave a legacy within the realm of design, influence or something like that. Has that been something that is important to you at this part of your career?
Exactly. So like, I don't think much a lot about it, say 10 years ago, if you asked me this question, but now it's all about impact. And impact is a very big word in academia. Just to circle back to academia as well, right? So it's not just research for the sake of research. Oh, you just get some grants and some money to do this project and then you're done. It's about the impact and then the sustained impact. Whose life are you influencing from your work? And then how long does it live on? Like how many people gets affected by or positively affected by your research, then you made a difference. And it goes across like impact on teaching as well. Like you're changing lives of your students. Like it's a privilege to be doing all this work, right? Serious games, like so it all ties back to impact, like the new knowledge that you find as well. So what does that contribute to the larger conversation around and across design?
Yeah. Li Ping, this has been probably one of the best chats I've had in a very long time.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming out. What we'll do as a follow-up that we do with all of our guests, we'll have some links in the comment section for this post. So we'll do some links to some of these websites that you've worked on and some of your history. And then we'll probably put your LinkedIn up there as well if anyone wants to reach out and have any further info. But thanks for taking the time, and come back again, please.
Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed this conversation. I thought it was great.
It's been cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Ta.
Thank you.